Hello, my little ninjas. My name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News, and welcome to your Wake and Bake News at 7 p.m. I'm your host, Moxie, and let's see, what was it? What has two thumbs and is ready for a big fat puff? This guy. Um, this guy. So, in case you're wondering, I am now getting ready to take a nice fat puff with anybody else that would care to join me at this early hour in the show because, gosh darn it, I deserve it. You know it's true. So, let's see. Let's get that out of the way, shall we? What else were we doing? Oh, I have a few videos for you tonight. I have one about Seattle City Council decriminalizing psilocybin mushrooms and people talking about how it helps them with different things. And it's really making me want to grow some mushrooms. Where's Jackie Cat? Need to talk to Jackie Cat. But I have that story coming up for you. Life is a bitch now. She's killing me. Right? Isn't that after Sam Wilco? Let's see, where were we? We were talking about videos that I have to play tonight. I also have a video about a female astronaut who is just getting ready to go to the space station, I believe. And it's going to be her first trip into space. She's very excited. I have a video about California versus Florida. And apparently the COVID, people contracting COVID in California per thousand is higher than in Florida. So these things are very interesting, are they not? I thought that this is the kind of thing that that you need to know, that we all need to discuss, that we need to be armed with, so that tomorrow, when some fool says something stupid, we can go, you know what? The fucking COVID rate in Florida is lower than the COVID rate in California. Okay, they're forcing everybody in California. Meanwhile, in Florida, they're making laws against forcing employees to get vaccines. Which I love. I don't know why there's not laws in place already about. There is, right? There's all kinds of laws in place about HIPAA, right? You're not allowed to force people to like line up like they have and get injected. You're not allowed to do that, right? Where's Jackie Cat? I did this whole damn show for Jackie Cat, and she doesn't even show up. Man, what do I gotta do? What do I have to do? My Boo Bear needs a peanut butter cookie. He did not get his peanut butter cookie yet. But he's downstairs eating teriyaki chicken with his dad. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. But he still needs his cookie. I can tell it makes a huge difference for those of you that are on the fence about giving your canines cannabis. I can tell you that Rufus got hit by a car when he was 6 months old. Really bad. He head-butted the front bumper and then went under the front tire and then went under the back tire. And the doctor didn't know if he was going to make it when we took him in the emergency room. And they gave him a bunch of pills. We got him through the hospital, and they gave him a bunch of pills, right? And I was like, yeah, we don't need those. They just started feeding him cannabis, and then like within a year or so, he's jumping like this high to get a stick, you know, and then I give him cannabis all the time up until, well, I've been giving him cannabis all the time, and then he had this issue, but it wasn't like every day. When he got hit by the car, it was every day, and then when he had this issue, you know, last year, I started giving him cannabis every day. And what I can tell you is that in the morning when we go for walkies, if he had his cannabis, he's all like, yeah, let's go for a walkie. He has cannabis the night before when he, you know, like around this time. And if he had cannabis, he's like, rah, rah, rah. If he doesn't have the cannabis, he's like, oh man, let's just go home. But he walks for a little bit and then he's like, yeah, I want to go home. So I highly recommend that you at least try not CBD, like real cannabis, but ease into it, because apparently I freaked the neighbors out with one of my cookies, and it's weird. They say like, oh, we figured out the right amount as a quarter cookie. I'm like, come on, Rufus eats more than that every day. So anyways, it makes a difference. It makes a difference in everyone's life. It's the story that I have about psychedelic drugs, mushrooms really, psilocybin mushrooms. The story that I have about that, where's Jackie Cat? The story that I have is all very pro psychedelics, well, not psychedelics in particular, but psilocybin mushrooms, as far as I can tell. They don't really talk about any other psychedelics in the clip. But the mushrooms, you know, Seattle is, oh right, it's all really pro mushrooms, right? And then at the end of the clip, she's like, we tried to find people who would have a negative, you know, have something negative to say about this, but we couldn't, you know, and we thought that people would be concerned about an increase in drunk driving under the influence, like there was under cannabis legalization. I was like, what the fuck? They never have a positive story about cannabis, and in the middle of a positive story about psilocybin mushrooms, they go, but marijuana is bad. So again, this is the industry that gets billions of dollars a year from the pharmaceutical companies and the petroleum industries, and go on and on. So it's not that hard to figure out. So what, I don't know, I can play another video. I mean, I can play a video. We really haven't played a video yet. I feel like it's all so stupid at this point. It's all, everything, you know, I just want to share happy things. That's what I want. I want to share happy things. I'm thinking about making enchiladas this weekend. I think that sounds really delicious. It sounds really delicious. So I'm thinking about making enchiladas. I really want to make enchiladas. But I'm open to suggestions. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Chicken enchiladas. I like chicken. So we were talking about mushrooms The first time I had mushrooms, they were beautiful. They were like about the size of my little finger, and they had these little pointy caps on top, and the little golden pointy caps, and the caps were all sealed around the stem of the mushroom. Like, wow, right? I had like 2 of them, and we'll have to get back to that, I guess. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mark.
What's up, G?
Hey, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I have an argument against drugs, man. You know what I think about drugs? I think drugs are a gateway drug.
What about alcohol?
It is a gateway drug.
What about cigarettes?
It is a gateway drug.
What about coffee?
It is not a gateway drug.
Hmm.
You don't die from coffee. You don't get addicted to coffee.
Liar. You definitely get addicted to coffee. How much coffee do you drink a day?
1 cup?
1 cup. Okay, well, try, once you get around 3 or 4 cups, you become quite addicted to it. And if you don't get it, a lot of times you'll get a headache.
I actually disagree.
Yeah, well.
It's too much coffee. If you drink like 4 or 5 cups of black coffee, you're going to end up with diarrhea, stomachache,
No, that's not true.
headache.
That's not true, dude.
I end up with diarrhea.
That's not true. This is. I don't know where you get this information, but that's just not true. Okay, there's restaurants that I walk into, and the manager of the restaurant comes up to me immediately and says, "I just put on a fresh pot of coffee for you, sir." So you know, I can drink 2 pots of coffee in 1 dinner. That's with eating on top of it. So wherever you get your information, it's incorrect. And you know what else? Maybe you go, "Oh, well, you drink a pot of coffee a day." I don't drink coffee at all. I drink tea. But when I go out and I have a meal, I like to drink coffee.
I drink coffee, that's what I'm saying. That after 5 or 6 cups, then you have the headache. Then you have diarrhea.
Yeah, I know I don't have that problem. And if you have that problem, I would either look into the coffee that you're drinking, the water the coffee's made in, or what you're eating, dude, because I don't have. I agree with you that coffee is a diuretic, but I never remember it doing that to me, and I drink a lot of coffee. This is Seattle. We drink coffee here.
Oh, that's the very first thing I noticed then. Like, true story. When I visited Seattle like 6 years ago, the very first time,
Uh-huh.
I saw coffee at Starbucks everywhere. Like nearly 3 or 4 in a block. Now I don't see that many because of the pandemic though, and most of them closed. But before the pandemic, they were literally functioning everywhere, man. That's insane.
Yeah, well, Starbucks killed a lot of the independents, so. But yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Coffee. This is coffee capital of United States, man.
Dude, go to Pike Place. It's probably one of the most concentrated areas of coffee shops around the nation. In the Pike Place area. Think about that. And if it is not a Starbucks, it is an independent location, or it's a restaurant that serves coffee. But coffee is not addictive, man. But it does have some conditions to get so much.
Coffee is very much addictive, Manny. You can Google it, dude. Okay, is coffee addictive? It'll put it right there. I'm pretty sure. Let's find out what happened, shall we? Is COFFEEADDI addictive? Is coffee addictive? Let's see. What do we got here? Is it bad? See, the first question for an answer, is it bad to be addicted to coffee? It's not a matter of if it is. The question is if it's bad or not.
And also depends on the coffee that you're drinking, Marcus. Because if you're drinking like black espresso, like you know those ones with the tiny cups.
Look, man, you can drink. You can drink pretend coffee if you want to drink pretend coffee, but don't act like somehow people who drink espresso are, somehow drinking, not coffee. They're drinking jet fuel or something. They're drinking real coffee. You're drinking. I don't know what. I don't know what it is you're talking about that gives you the shits, dude.
The only thing that I really find more disgusting than coffee, man, is the energy drinks. I don't drink energy drinks at all, for real.
I don't drink anything except for water and tea and a little bit of juice.
The last time I did any drinks for real was like 10 years ago when I was in community college. I took those tiny cans of Red Bull.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's one of the biggest fucking headaches I ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, I can't stand the way that stuff tastes. I don't know how it's so popular. It tastes like shit, if you ask me. Tastes like coffee. Tastes like cough syrup or something. It's like a carbonated cough syrup.
No, it's kind of like a sherry type of drink, though.
Yeah, like cherry cough syrup. Like cherry cough syrup. Tastes like cherry cough syrup with bubbles. It's disgusting. I only had like 2 sips, and I know exactly what it tastes like, and I know I never want to taste it again.
I mean, I like cherry drinks, though, like Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola.
Oh, I never actually thought of Dr. Pepper as a cherry drink, but I guess it is, huh? I like cherry juice. I like cherry juice very much. It's really good for you, too.
I like Dr. Pepper, though.
Yeah, well, I don't drink sodas at all, so I don't know. I haven't had a soda.
Oh, I drink a lot of soda, man. You know what's the #1 drink in Mexico?
No.
Soft drink.
Yeah, what? I don't know.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, well,
Coca-Cola.
It's the #1 drink around the world, dude.
But in Mexico in specific, man, like Coca-Cola is overpassed those everyone by magnitude. You think Jarritos is, even though Jarritos is from Mexico, it's not even nothing compared like a Spa compared to Coca-Cola. Everyone drinks Coca-Cola over there. And because I used to be from Baja, which is a desert over there in Mexico, when it gets hot...
Well, you know what, Manny? I hope that you're heavily invested in Coca-Cola stocks, because it sounds like you're a true believer.
I am invested in direct in Coca-Cola. Probably in some mutual funds that have some exposure in Coca-Cola.
Right on. That's really good to know.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Back to your point, though. I mean, I heard a lot of stories about. Back to your main point. I heard a lot of stories about marijuana and psychedelics helping people. I mean, if there's actual data and it actually works, I will be open for the possibility of legalization and actual use for medical purposes.
Look, dude, I mean, you mean about cannabis? Cannabis being... okay, look, here's the deal with cannabis. Okay? Here's the facts, okay? States that have legalized cannabis, even just medicinally, have a lower opioid prescription rate per 1,000 people than states that have not legalized cannabis. So there's the evidence right there that it helps not only people, individuals, but the entire community, dude. Open your eyes.
Who the hell is Walco 003? You tell me be less white. Come on, man. I'm an American as you and me. The only difference is I grew up in Mexico and I moved to the U.S. when I was 18.
Hey, you all can be whatever you want to be. I'm good with it. Don't worry about what other people think.
No, it's just a shot, though. It's just a shot that I'm saying things that kind of irritates me. But yeah, Mom, I mean, I have, for example, ketamine.
What now?
Apparently, it's a drug that is used like cocaine, but in Asia. It's the Asian cocaine, the ketamine.
Ketamine is not a good drug, dude. I don't want to diss on ketamine. People like the ketamine, whatever. Look, try some magic mushrooms, okay? Really, do it with friends. I'm sure you know people who do this. Okay, it's a very common thing, especially in the Northwest. Do it. It will open your eyes to what's happening, really happening in the world.
let me ask you this though, and how you first of all how you try DMT?
No, no, I have not. Have you?
No, because I was going to ask you something about DMT though, because I had it on Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Okay.
And Alex Jones.
Look. Okay. Here's the deal with the mushrooms. All right. The Google, right? Google. You know the company Google. They are encouraging their programmers to do what they call microdosing with psilocybin mushrooms. The reason that they're encouraging that is it helps them to think in abstract ways because they're programmers and they see everything in ones and zeros, so it helps them to do that. So you need to understand this is again an eye-opening experience. Not just that. Mushrooms of this type, psilocybin mushrooms, grow everywhere in the world. It's not just, it's like cannabis. Like I keep saying about cannabis, it's meant to be a daily part of our lives. How do you prove it? Because it will grow everywhere. Okay? That's not by accident. Okay? Mushrooms grow all over the world. And these psilocybin type of mushrooms, it's not like they just come from this one little corner of the world. Again, this is meant to be part of the human experience, and it's all been vilified, and this is part of why our spaceship is off course.
Let me ask you something, Max. You say you have done mushrooms and stuff, and you had hallucinations before.
I didn't say that, but go ahead.
Is it true that when you're having hallucinations, you see interdimensional beings?
I've never seen interdimensional beings. I have one time when I was very young, like maybe 20 years old, I did see all kinds of psychedelic type of mosaics on the wall. They looked very Egyptian, and that was it was a concrete block room, and it was very weird to see that. So. But I don't have a lot of hallucinations, but there's little things that happen, but it's not, again, for me, it's not necessarily ever been like I need the psychedelic experience, because when I've been very young, I just had a lot of weird stuff. But I highly recommend, ask Jackie Cat, dude. Jackie Cat knows. She's very, what you call, experienced. So, and it's easy to understand if you're not programmed in this negative way by this negative propaganda that the government is constantly programming you with, to be afraid of everything, Manny. We've had this discussion before, haven't we?
Okay, Mark. All right, I just want to say that. I just want to say that.
Okay, Manny, it's always good to hear from you.
All right, man, take it easy.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye.
I don't know, you think I'm too rough on Manny? I'm just trying to be clear. This, like cannabis, this grows everywhere. You would be blown away by how many places this grows, the psilocybin mushrooms. Like in Maui, I don't know if it's all the islands, but in Maui, there's one kind of mushroom that grows in the wild, and it's psilocybin. And everything else is like a toadstool, like you don't eat anything else. It's just this one psilocybin mushroom that grows. And we used to go out and pick them all the time. And you know what? It's weird when you're in the natural setting of picking mushrooms, because it's like I always look at them like little kind of soldiers of knowledge or something. It's like there's this little capsule of knowledge, and you consume it, and all of a sudden you understand things in a whole new light. And you truly understand. But we used to go out and pick mushrooms in Maui, and we go way north to the cow pastures, and we'd be walking. It was beautiful. There's fucking ocean view and just green grass, and we'd be walking through it'd be like 5, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, after doing a graveyard shift at the Denny's. I used to wait 10 tables at the Denny's in Lahaina, which was an open air Denny's, which you don't see a whole lot. But I digress. After getting off a graveyard shift at the Denny's, what the fuck is this bitrate bullshit? So after we get off work at the Denny's, a graveyard shift at the Denny's, we go out to the cow pastures and go way up north. There's no houses around or anything. There's some cool beaches, but it's just kind of like nobody's there. It's really awesome. I mean, there's people. You see people out there, but no houses. Really cool. So first you see like pineapple fields of pineapple growing. The bus driver used to tell me, right? He was like 60 years old. He told me one time when we were driving past the pineapples, right? He told me that when he was a kid, they'd go out and the pineapples grow. You can see them growing up out of the ground on like these plants. And he said when they were growing, when they were really close to ripe, that they'd go out and they'd cut the tops off of them and they'd take a stick and they'd mash down all the guts on the inside of the pineapple, and then they'd put the top back on, and then they'd come back 2 days later and it would get them drunk as fuck. So again, this is part of the natural experience, enjoying a little buzz. So anyways, we'd go to pick mushrooms way up north, and it's really weird, right? Because you'd be looking everywhere, like where are the mushrooms? I know there's gotta be mushrooms around here somewhere. And you're looking, and it's like you look everywhere. And then you look over there, and there's like 1,000 mushrooms. You go, yeah, baby. It was always fun, always interesting. And then we go home and make a big batch of Kool-Aid. I remember I was tripping balls over at these girls' houses. It's always weird for me when I go to somebody's house and it's just women, it's like only women live there, and I come in and I'm like the only guy. And remember, I was sitting there tripping and in Maui and talking with these 3 ladies, and they were I can't remember what they were talking about, but it's like I was kind of part of the conversation, but mostly just listening. And then all of a sudden I went, "You're witches!" And they all looked at me and laughed. I thought that was fun. I thought I'd share that with you. For whatever reason, we're talking about the psychedelic experience and can it save humanity? And again, this is why I point out that these kind of mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms, the psychedelic mushrooms, are available. They grow all around the world. And the reason is because they're supposed to be part of our normal lives, right? We're supposed to use these, as the people will say in this next upcoming video, that helps them get through, traumatic experiences and all these other things. And it's not just that. It helps you see things in a different perspective. As I was saying about the Google programmers, Google is encouraging their programmers to do microdosing of psilocybin. And the reason again that I point this out and I say, can it save all humanity, is because if it was a daily part of our life, not daily, excuse me, if it was a regular part of humanity, of our, if people were ingesting this psychedelic on a, I don't want to say regular experience, but like, it wasn't a bad thing. It was like people kind of had, almost everybody had the experience, and I think the world would be completely different. And I think that people would be so much closer together, so much more communicative, so much more empathy. As I said about the cannabis, if you're eating enough cannabis, you have this empathy. If you see the reality is that everybody's getting fucked over, and except for the few at the top, and no one deserves it. And that's why when I say, you hear people call up and they say, oh, these people deserve what they get, they're all so stupid. Even if they are stupid, which I'm not saying that they are, but let's say that they are. I'm saying that they're misled and misinformed on a daily basis. So, there's only a limited amount of what they can do. And the problem is that they buy into the fear too. And part of the fear is saying, oh, those people are the problem. Those people are stupid. Those people. And again, this labels thing is how they keep us all separate. It's not so much how they keep us separate, but the labels thing is how they get us to ignore each other. So you have this label on that person. This is a liberal or stupid person, or a CRT or whatever, right? Domestic terrorist, anti-vaxxer, or whatever it is. It's like the people who aren't getting the vaccine are looking at the people who are getting the vaccine, and they're going, oh my God, what's wrong with these people? Why won't they wake up? And the people who are getting the vaccine are looking at the people who aren't getting the vaccine and they're saying, what the fuck is wrong with these people? They're putting us all in danger, right? And, I can't look at people. That's the programming. This is the people buying into the programming. Those people are all fucked up. No, they're misled and misinformed, okay? And they're trying desperately to do the right thing. I'm pretty much 100% sure on that one. Both sides trying desperately to do the right thing. And if we could just see this, if we can see that both sides are working really hard to do the right thing, then we should be able to have empathy for each side instead of pointing a finger and saying it's those people's fault. If it wasn't for those people, the plague would be over already. Well, according to this next video, in which they say the COVID rate in Florida is lower. The current rate of catching the COVID, the current rate of catching the COVID is lower in Florida than it is per thousand, is lower than Florida than it is in California. And again, this is the misinformed thing, and the misleadership thing, right? So people again I don't think the politicians are trying to do the right thing. Again, the politicians always seem like they're trying to play to the audience. The politicians always seem like whichever the way the wind blows, they put their finger in the air. So I'm going to play this video for you, and we will discuss what we're being lied about to next. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be right back. I'm going to go heat up my tea. Anybody ready for a puff? We could do that too. I can do that all night, really. I'll be right back.
It's a tale of two states, California versus Florida, in the fight against COVID-19. This week, the city of Los Angeles enacted some of the nation's strictest COVID-19 vaccine verification rules. Now, businesses must check your vaccination status when you go out shopping or go to a restaurant, movie theater, hair and nail salons, gyms, museums, bowling alleys, and other spaces as well. Meantime, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis announced a series of bills aimed at cutting back President Biden's new federal COVID-19 vaccine requirements, saying We've got to stop the coercion. We've got to stop browbeating people. Now, the interesting thing here is California's coronavirus rate is double that of Florida, which is at 7 cases per 100,000 people. California is at 16 cases per 100,000. Our next guest lives in California, but just returned from a week-long trip to Florida and says the difference is pretty amazing. Joining me now is our regular Dave Rubin, host of The Rubin Report on YouTube and the author of Don't Burn This Book. All right, Dave, what'd you see out there in Florida?
Well, Joe, you are right. I am physically here in California, but I am mentally and spiritually in Florida. I have to tell you, I mean, it's not just a tale of two cities. It really feels like a different country than here in California. I was out and about. There were people in absolutely packed restaurants, people smiling and having a good time. Streets were packed, coffee shops were packed. And guess what? Some people wore masks. Actually, not a lot of people, but it was your choice if you wanted to wear a mask and if you wanted to be vaccinated. And that's in stark contrast to Los Angeles. I came back 2 or 3 days ago and everybody's masked up and things are mostly empty and we know about all the closures and everything else. It really, maybe we're seeing a good experiment in the federalist system where states get to do different things, but we're seeing one state, at least in my opinion, run extremely well by a competent governor, Ron DeSantis. Obviously, that's Florida, and something very different by Gavin Newsom. Although he did return today after an 11-day
Yeah, I know. Well, let's talk
absence.
about that in a minute, Dave. But why do you think the numbers are higher in California when there are so much tighter restrictions?
I mean, look, as you just laid out, you know, the difference between, say, 7 out of 100,000 people and 16, it's not so profoundly different. It sounds like a lot because it is more than double, but there are different factors that play in terms of population density and weather
Age.
and everything else. But I think the overriding thing is that the lockdowns, the mask mandates, taking the choices away from the people, I think that has been very clearly proven not to work, and have a series of other problems related to depression and people being upset and not going to work and just the sort of general breakdown of society that we're seeing. So that it just doesn't work. DeSantis is saying, hey, freedom's a little bit messy. I'm going to give you guys as much choice as possible. That's much more in line with an America that I think we mostly knew for 200 plus years.
All right, let's get to Governor Newsom. He went missing for a little while there, and the Twitterverse went nuts. Did he have COVID? Did he have a reaction to the vaccine? There was all this speculation. And then he skipped the climate conference in Scotland. And when he resurfaced, here's what he said.
And the kids, literally, they kind of had an intervention. They said they couldn't believe that I was going to miss Halloween. Mom and Dad missing Halloween. For them, it's like worse than Christmas, missing Christmas. And I woke up that next morning with something that's probably familiar to a lot of parents, that knot in your stomach, that I had no damn choice. I had to cancel that trip.
All right, Dave, as a dad who's missed a lot of Halloweens, I guess we can get that. But I think maybe the bigger question here is not where he should have been, but where was he? And why didn't he just come out and say, if it's Halloween, then just say it, right? Disappearing is only going to fuel all this speculation.
Absolutely. Look, the guy disappeared for 11 days after getting that jab where he flexed his muscles, and it's so great, and we should jab all of these kids, even though we don't know exactly what it's going to do, according to the FDA panelists themselves. He disappeared. Why didn't he just say something on video to say that he's okay? You know, there are a couple articles written. There's one in the Daily Mail today from insider sources within the family that say he did have some sort of adverse reaction with muscle fatigue. I can't tell you independently that's absolutely true, but there are people reporting that. But the bigger issue is that this guy's out there. He's a total media lover, right? He's out in the media all the time. So for 11 days in the midst of this pandemic where he wants everyone to be jabbed endlessly, he disappeared. Something doesn't really add up.
Man, that music sounds so good. I want to go somewhere where they play that music. Any suggestions? It really reminds me of Motorhead. I probably told you this before, but for some reason it really reminds me of Motorhead. All right, so where were we? What were we talking about? Missy Lemmy. What were we talking about? Oh, let's see. So, I don't know about, Ron DeSantis being a good leader. I don't know that. That was insinuated in this video. That being said, Right? To me, he's just another politician. That being said, I again, you can look at it from either perspective, and you can go, oh, see, those people are the problem. Although with a higher rate of, why am I having a problem with that word? Don't know. With a higher rate of catching the COVID. Anybody know that word I'm looking for? The higher rate of catching COVID in California, where there's more people vaccinated, opposed to Florida, where blah, blah, blah. My point is, people are being misled. People are being misled, okay, and misinformed. So, and one side looks at the other side. They've got it they've got it so perfect right now. I mean, people are just divided in a million different ways. Instead of just being Americans working together for a better America, we're in this place where, you know, those people are the problem. You're the problem. That guy's the problem. You know, the problem's in Washington, D.C. I keep saying this. That's the problem. The misleadership, the misinformation. That's the real problem. Not that people are stupid. Not that people, are followers. Not that people won't listen to reason. The problem is that they have us all divided. And that we can't just recognize each other as being valid to, like, say, you know, I'm okay, you're okay, right? You live your life, I live my life, you know. But no, now they have it so afraid, right? It's it's really sad. But we didn't come out here to talk about sad things, did we? We came out here to talk about psychedelics. And by the way, Jackie Cat, I'd really like to know, like, how much room I need to grow some mushrooms. And I'm sure you can direct me in the right direction for some spores. Let me see this thing. This on. Okay, so I got the phone here. The telephone number is right there on the screen, 805-669-6397. I am thinking, after watching this video and knowing that I haven't had a mushroom experience in a while, I think I've been thinking a lot about growing some mushrooms. Hello, caller.
Hi, Michael. This is Jackie Cat. I just wanted to call and let you know you can.
Jackie Cat never sounds this tired. Okay, you sound exhausted. Jackie Cat never sounds this exhausted.
I'm
Never.
Really sleepy.
Never.
I'm just trying to let you know where you can store your mushrooms.
I can score them anywhere. I don't want to score them. I want to grow my own.
No.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
scoring. Storing.
Oh, storing.
Location
Uh-huh.
to grow them.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn.
I've seen people grow them in these, like, plastic storage bins, like these ones that are like 2 feet by, 18 inches or whatever. Big ones, like big mushrooms, like this big around. Wow. What now?
What? I just wanted to let you know if you have to, you can store them in my vagina.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much. That's really nice. Sorry, Shug. I don't know why. But I would love to have your help, at least a little bit, Shug, as far as space and what kind of stuff I need, because I think I want to grow a little bit. Maybe you can direct me in the right direction for spores or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you know a kit or something that's just kind of really simple to use. It's been a long time since I ate any mushrooms, so it seems like time, you know, because I would really enjoy the experience of seeing from a different perspective. All right, so I have a video about psychedelic mushrooms. I have that, but I also have a video here about, and I'm going to play these videos because I want to play the videos. I'm not trying to blah blah blah. I think I've told my stories. Oh, right on. I was actually in the middle of a story about the first time that I took psilocybin mushrooms, right? And I was at work, right? And I was like 16 years old, and I worked at a body shop, right? You know, sanding cars, taping up cars, getting them ready for paint jobs, basically. And like all the guys at the auto body shop were taking mushrooms that day, right? And I had never done it before. I was like, okay, I'm down. Let's do some mushrooms. And I ate some mushrooms, and I wasn't feeling anything. And I got in. It was lunchtime, so I got in the car, in my pickup truck, and me and my friend drove out to the airport. Right, we parked down. It was different times. I was again 16 years old, and we parked at the end of the runway, off the side, and my friend was like, "Here, you want another gram of mushrooms?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure," right? And I ate the second gram of mushrooms, and right about the time I ate the second gram of mushrooms, I started to feel the first gram of mushrooms. I have no idea how I drove back, but I remember we're sitting there eating lunch, and all of a sudden this little tiny biplane goes pulls taxis out onto the runway, right? And it was like teeny tiny. I was like, not like teeny tiny, but like it would fit in this room, It wasn't like an actual plane. It was like a mini plane. I was like, what the hell, man? And then this teeny tiny plane sat at the end of the runway, right? And it started just gunning the engine, right? So it's gunning the engine, and it starts to head our direction. And it comes like a tenth of the runway down the runway, and it goes, whoop, and it just goes straight up for about, 20 feet off the runway, right? And it goes straight up 20 feet off the runway, and it just went all the way down the runway, 20 feet off the runway. And when he got to the end of the runway, it just shot straight up in the air and started doing a barrel roll. I was like, oh, what? And it turned out it was one of these kit planes that people built themselves. And so it was like a mini biplane. It looked like kind of like Snoopy's plane, the Red Baron. Very cool. And then we went back to go to work, right? And about the time we got back to work, I was just seriously tripping balls, right? Just like I'd never done no shit like this before. And so I'm kind of trying to sand a car and not look like I'm fucking freaking out, right? So I'm sanding the car, and I'm working on the car door, and there's a mirror, like a side mirror on the car door, and I'm outside and I'm sanding the car door, and I start to look in the mirror. Now, experienced trippers can look into mirrors. People that are not experienced, I recommend you stay away from mirrors. So this is my first trip. I'm sanding the car at work, out in the sun. You know, I'm like, right, and there's a mirror on the car door, and I start to look into the mirror, and I look into my eyes, and I can't find the pupils in my eyes. I cannot find the pupils in my eyes, and I just start freaking out, man. Oh my God, what did they give me? I don't know what's happening. They were very good mushrooms. Let's just put it that way. But that subsided, and everything was cool. It's not like I started smashing stuff with a crowbar or something. Or started taking off all my clothes and running in the street naked. Although that does sound pretty good. I might have to try that next time. So that's the first time I ate mushrooms, in case anybody's wondering. At least the beginning of the first time I ate mushrooms. I don't honestly recall much after I can't see my pupil, I can't find the pupils in my eyes. I remember it's just fucking freaking me out, not being able to find the pupils in my eyes. But I'm feeling much better now. And I'm ready for a fat dose of good mushrooms. Mirrors are cool. I just wouldn't recommend it on your first trip, that's all. Mirrors are fine. Mirrors are very interesting. I don't recommend it on your first trip. I recommend outdoors, starlight, wandering around. Doesn't have to be starlight. You can be, in some kind of safe environment where it's like, a normal kind of party street, wandering around, looking at people. I love wandering around, looking at people. When I'm tripping balls. Okay, so I'm going to play a video now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play the Trippin' Balls video. Magic mushrooms, how they can help us all, and possibly save humanity. Again, they grow everywhere. It's meant to be part of our regular lives. Everyone, most of us having this experience with the psychedelic mushrooms, because again, they grow everywhere. It's pretty obvious. That being said, I talk a lot about the evolution of man being held back, and understanding that the psychedelic mushrooms give you a perspective, an alternate perspective from like a completely different viewpoint, right? And that if we are stuck from evolving the way humans are supposed to, this could be a big part of it. Because the population, the general population, this has again been kept from, just like cannabis, and these are the kind of things that obviously have a great influence on society. So when I talk about the human race being held back from its next evolution, I'm not kidding. This is all being done on purpose. We're stuck in this like 1930s kind of mentality and not being allowed to move forward. I think it's even more regressive than 1930s. I think there was a lot of progressive thought in the 30s, beyond a shadow of a doubt in my mind. Progressive, but real progressive, not like the bullshit that we have now, the fake politics. So I'm going to play the magic mushroom video for you now, and I'll be right back. It's a good video. It's not a little short clip, so you might be able to get some actual knowledge out of it. You never know.
Seattle City Council passed a resolution offering unanimous support for decriminalizing the personal use, growing, and gifting of things like magic mushrooms. KIRO 7's Dee Dee Sun talked with people who say psychedelics have changed their lives.
32-year-old Dana Phillips is mom to 2 girls. She also microdoses psychedelic mushrooms regularly.
We powderize our mushroom, and then we just put it in a little capsule. If I wake up feeling kind of stressed out and anxious that day, I'll just take a little microdose.
So a lot of people would be surprised to hear a mom is microdosing on mushrooms.
Yes, yeah, oh, definitely. And that's part of the reason why I haven't really shared my story either.
The 60s counterculture movement gave psychedelics a bad rap. Mushrooms and LSD were labeled as dangerous party drugs that could melt your mind. Now all of that is changing. Dana takes mushrooms therapeutically. She's been struggling with depression for the past decade.
It is your darkness.
And after the birth of her first child, Beverly, her depression worsened.
So I actually got to a point where I was having really, really hard thoughts about not really wanting to exist.
She says while therapy helped,
it just never really went away.
Eventually, she and her husband started researching psychedelics as an option for treating depression. A quick search and you'll find long lists of videos on YouTube, many of them recapping scientific studies, explaining how psilocybin, the active compound that makes mushrooms magic, can impact the mind.
With psilocybin treatment, we were seeing immediate reductions in depression symptoms, immediate relief that lasted for months without side effects.
Then on this past Mother's Day, Dana's husband surprised her with magic mushrooms.
And I was like really nervous. So I was like, okay.
They blitzed the mushrooms, not a microdose, but what's called a mega or hero dose, into a smoothie, drank it, and waited.
What were the first effects that you started noticing?
You know when you get really big butterflies and nerves or whatever, like you kind of get that all over your body and stuff. And everyone's different.
Dana says the experience was profound and immediate.
I won't ever look at my depression in the same way ever again. Yeah. And I really processed through a lot of trauma.
If it sounds far-fetched to you, maybe a bit too magical, here's the theory on how it works. Scientists believe conditions like depression and anxiety, even things like PTSD and addiction, can create certain neurological paths in your brain. The thought patterns can become ingrained and hard to break. One idea is that psychedelics can break those patterns and allow neural networks to connect in ways people cannot achieve by themselves.
I remember telling my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just feel so alive. And he's like, you're back. Like, thank you for coming back to me.
Dana's experience treating her depression is considered illegal. But now in Seattle, City Council has unanimously passed a resolution supporting decriminalization.
The motion carries, the resolution is adopted.
We were extremely excited.
Ben Circum volunteers with Decrim Nature Seattle. It's a grassroots group that's been fighting to get psychedelics decriminalized for years. He's embracing Seattle's new stance and showed Cairo 7 how he's setting up a psychedelic mushroom grow.
I wanted to show my face and let people know a little bit more about the process of growing, because it's not this big bag, scary drug that I think a lot of people maybe associate with it.
He used mushroom spores, essentially the fungi's seeds, and started growing them in jars of wheat berries.
So what we have is sterilized substrate, coir.
He mixes it all up and says in about a month, psychedelic mushrooms will start to grow. Ben says these mushrooms have changed his life. He used to suffer from depression and anxiety and took an antidepressant called Celexa.
What I found was that antidepressants weren't working for me, and it just made me feel so dull to the world.
But similar to Dana's experience, a mushroom trip changed his perspective. Now, in clinical trials, the guided psychedelic experiences did not work for everybody. But in all the studies conducted by major universities, most patients showed lasting improvement, even 4 years later, one NYU study found. Dana says that's why she wanted to share her story.
I really want people to see how much this helps. And like, it makes me emotional because I know there's so many other people in this space of feeling like they're stuck. It's just time. It's time to shed the light.
Some people are worried magic mushrooms will lead to increased DUIs like we saw with marijuana. But when I tried to find experts who are against decriminalizing this psychedelic, I could not find strong opposition. In Seattle, Dee Sun, Cairo 7 News.
Heroic dose, huh? That does sound pretty good. superhero dose. I don't want just a heroic dose. I want the super heroic dose. Rah! Sounds good to me, I'll tell you. It really does. The only thing that I have not actually enjoyed about the psilocybin is sometimes you puke. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Okay.
I think that you should have to, and I'm being very extremely serious right now. I think that you should have to experience mushrooms before graduating from high school. And a lot of people would think that's an extremely radical thing to think, or even a policy that you might try to implement. But I completely believe that if we did that, it would transform society immediately.
Well, I think that, as I was saying, that it's meant to be part of the human experience. And that I don't want to require anybody to experience things they don't want to, like a vaccine. But I would like to make it readily available to those who are open to the experience. And in doing so, more and more people will become open because people will be talking about the positive experience they've had and tell people how it made a huge difference in their lives. So.
Right. Yeah, I guess I should preface my view by saying I don't believe in mandatory education. Like, that's what we have right now, is we have mandatory education. And mandatory education says if you don't send your kids to school or teach them what, and make them get your kids into whatever kind of program, because people say, oh, no, I can homeschool. No, okay, you can homeschool, but you have to get your children to pass this test, right? I mean, so that's not, you don't get a choice of what you can teach them. You have to teach them certain things, and then or you get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well,
even in that system, which I don't agree with at all, even in that system, it should be mandatory for almost not every person. There's a couple people, the runners. I think most people understand what runners are. These are the people that if you give them mushrooms or acid or anything like that, they might just start running, and they're going to become a real problem, because now they're running and nobody knows where they're going. They just take off and you have to go catch them. It's not common, but it happens. So, to implement it in a in a pre-adult stage, I don't know. What do you think? Like 15, 16? I'm thinking like 15 to 16 years old is ideal. Somewhere in there, it's ideal.
This is the thing, right? It just needs to be part. The problem is it needs to be a regular part of the human experience. It doesn't need to be required. Right. It just needs not to be vilified and readily available. It needs to be properly understood that this is incredibly therapeutic to humanity. This is missing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's part of your food group that you got rid of because of religion, basically. I mean, I don't know if religion was the only one that got kicked out, but I'm willing to bet they were definitely in the front of it. Because every other drug I've ever seen getting people thrown in jail, there's religions right there. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what started it, but we definitely used to have mushrooms in our diet, and there's no reason not to have them. And in fact, it's painfully wrong if you don't do it. If you don't teach your children this experience, that to me is I don't know, irresponsible. I would say irresponsible.
Again, it's the society, you know. It's the society which says this is evil. If it was just a readily available thing, not some bullshit about, you know, only those kind of people do those drugs. You know what I mean? If it was understood that this is incredibly therapeutic, it's part of the human experience. It has been part of the human's experience since there has been humans. So. Up until the 1930s or 40s, when did they make psilocybin into such an evil thing, Jackie Cat?
Yeah. So I don't know when they started. It started becoming an evil thing. I think if I trace it back far enough, is when you basically had modern religions, the three Abrahamics, you know, basically came in and made anything else other than that, any spiritual experience. And technically, I don't really view mushrooms as a spiritual experience. I view them as a reality awareness necessity. But in other words, you have to, if you haven't done mushrooms and you don't know what that's like, then you really just don't have a say. I mean, I don't think that's going too far. Like, if you're sitting around a bunch of people and they've all smoked weed and they're very highly knowledgeable about weed, and you have one guy in the group who doesn't know anything about weed, has never smoked weed, and he starts talking to everybody about weed, it's like, everybody's like, you know, okay, yeah, we want to value your opinion, but
you should really try this stuff, bud. It's fucking killer.
Yeah, you know, I've seen incredible things. I love mushrooms. I've seen people do incredible things. I've seen it. People transform in the experience where they, for the first time, realized their central self, like where they were able to connect their central self to the outside world in a way that they had never even imagined. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm going, boy, this guy wouldn't have, if I'd have told him he was going to be doing this yesterday, he'd have never believed me. And that's, you know, this is just a constant thing with mushrooms. I mean, it's just bizarre why it's not more commonly practiced. That, to me, but, you know, I don't attach it to spiritual experiences. I don't need mushrooms or.
Well, see, that's one of the things, right? Part of the reason that I believe we're so separated right now is because the psychedelics aren't an accepted, normal part of the human experience. I mean, they really are, but not so much accepted. They're looked at as, you know, again, only those kind of people do this.
Yeah.
But I believe that if people were doing this on a more regular basis, that we wouldn't have this division the way things are now. You know?
Oh, there's no way. Oh,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So,
definitely.
So I think that's a big part of the problem. Again, that they're purposely holding back the next evolution of humans. This is one of the ways that they're doing it, and then also, you know, this is one of the ways that they keep us separate. This is why they don't want us to have cannabis, is because it's hard to be angry, you know, if you have cannabis, and you won't really be stuck in a constant state of fear how they want you if you have a proper regular amount of cannabis either. So
I'm pretty sure, and I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people that agree with me, maybe even you, that if they had cannabis edibles as pretty much the primary food group at the COP climate change thing that's going on, right?
Mm.
Or if you had it as a primary food group at the UN or whatever, any of these places where all the countries get together and decide, what's going to go on. I'm pretty sure that if we had marijuana, and maybe even, like, if you're going to have like a 5-day event, make sure that the 4th day is the mushrooms, make sure that these people have these.
Well, no, you want them to have them at the beginning so that they're able to have the important discussions that need to be had throughout the.
Yeah. Right in the door, give them the marijuana or give them the can.
What you want to do is with dinner the first night or lunch the second day, with their salad you want to put some kind of marinated fresh psychedelic mushroom in there, which most of, and then like serve some kind of steak thing with like a sautéed mushroom along with it, or fish or whatever.
Right.
And that way, if you missed people with, and then you could do a soup also in case some people don't like salad. Oh, we'll try the soup, right? So then they go back to their meeting and and of course you have brownies for dessert. They go back to their meeting and they have a completely different perspective, and and most of them can't wait for the brownies at dinner time.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think give them a day and a half into the thing, and then introduce the brownies or introduce the cannabis, and then slowly for a couple of days keep them on the cannabis, and then about the 3rd or 4th day put them on the mushrooms, and baby, we're going to get some shit solved, and you're going to see some things, some energy come out of those types of meetings that are going to produce all kinds of things that we haven't seen because we're not participating.
Right. Well, one of the things that you'll see is people actually trying to get to the problem and people actually talking the truth, and people actually talking like they really wanted to work together to solve things, which is what's missing now.
What I use cannabis for, and what it really helps me with, is focus. I have I don't want to call it a severe ADHD thing, but I do have a little bit of a focus problem. If I smoke a little weed, not a lot, I can't do a lot. If I do a lot, I start getting real bouncy. But if I just do a little bit, I can focus. And I've seen other people focus too, artists, anybody who wants to create something that is good.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of the long distance endurance athletes are using it now. Because it helps them work through those places where they're getting up to a wall and they can't push anymore, and then they relax a little bit and they just push as far as they want. So
yeah. I push through the wall without the weed, but the weed helps me focus on the fine tuning of what I'm actually doing. The physical endurance part of it, for me, it's different for everybody. The mushrooms. I you know what I used to do for my guys? I actually had a mushroom day where I would never announce this ahead of time, but I would just show up in the morning, think like everything's normal. Everybody shows up at 7:30, and I would say, okay, the time I'm referring to is I had a crew of 5, so these guys all show up. We're doing construction work. I said, all right, guys, today we're all done. I got 2 coolers in the truck, one's full of food, one's full of beer. We're going into the forest, and we're not coming out until dark. And they said, oh, and I said, you're all being paid. It's paid vacation. It's a paid mushroom day. So we went into the forest and did paid mushroom day. And as an employer, all I can say is, you're ridiculous if you don't do this.
Yeah, I get that completely.
The response I got from doing that from the guys that work for me was irreplaceable.
Yeah.
It's not like what we do in the capitalist, I'm okay with capitalism in a certain way.
Well,
I'm just saying,
you reach a connection. You reach a connection that you're not going to reach simply by writing someone a paycheck.
That's right. It's not about economics. It's about being humane and giving somebody a special experience. Company, right? Company paid. Like, couple of the guys, most of the guys that were there had already done them, so they really appreciated it too. But there was two people there that had never done them before, and their responses were the most interesting, because they come back and they're like, holy crap, you know, like I'm going through my mind trying to think of how many other places I might possibly even come close to an experience like this. It's not possible. It's not available. You have to have a very unique situation to have that. And it's sad. That made me sad. Like I said, oh my God, you know, look at these guys' reactions. This means that there's a need for this. And that's how I took it, is that this is a piece of humanity looking back at me and saying, there is a very big need for this. This isn't a joke. This isn't like something where maybe it's, you know, a different flavored jelly. No, this is we're talking about, this is a staple of human consciousness and human interaction, is the psychedelics. And I'm not a big fan, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not a big fan of any time that the psychedelics are attached to spirituality, unless it's a very focused and earned ceremony. Okay, fine, and it's very individuated as well. I don't, you know, you don't bring a bunch of people down to Peru and give them ayahuasca. You can do that, that's fine. Would I consider that a spiritual experience? No. I consider that a
connecting with the earth,
biological.
Connecting with the earth and connecting with other beings on a higher level is definitely a spiritual experience for me.
Yeah. So there's many ways to get there. All I'm saying is I don't like the psychedelic attachment to that aspect as much as I like it to the attachment of, look, this is just experiential basic education. Like, you need to have this education. You need to have this in your wallet, my friend. You need to have this, because it will change your perspective. It changes your ability to be conducive to other people's ideas. It changes your ability to see everything in a different way. It changes your responses. It helps you understand nature and its complexity. And nature is complex, but there's a lot of stuff here, and we need to understand that we're just, you know, we're a decent sized part of it, but we're a part of it. We're not it. We're a part of it, and that's you know, it gets you off your arrogance and puts you in the belonging field. And the belonging field is a nice place to be, in my opinion. I like being there.
Right on, Dave. I get it. I totally get what you're saying. So I'm glad you called. It's good. This is what we need, is people who've had the experience. Expressing, how valuable it is. So I really appreciate it.
Valuable.
Yeah.
All right, Mom.
All right. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. For me, the experience again is. As far as spirituality goes, I think that one of the big things that it's done for me in the past is that it connects me a whole lot to the earth, and to other people, and perceive other people in whole new ways. You're witches! And Dave was talking about, you need this knowledge. You need this knowledge. You need this knowledge. Earlier in the show, I was explaining that I've always seen these mushrooms, where at least after the first mushroom doses or two, as little individual capsules of knowledge. Not capsule, but this. I actually look at them as like little people. They're like little people, and they want to tell you something. And that's the knowledge that Dave's talking about, is that this little person has something you need to know. And believe it or not, that's how I've always perceived them. So, or not always, like I said, from the first trip or two, after the first trip or two, it was like, wow, Dave's right, I need this knowledge. They have something to tell me, and I want to hear it. So, and I have heard the word. So, the word is the bird. Don't even start that shit. I have another video. Now, the next video that I'm going to play for you is, I have one about an astronaut. She's going up to the space station for the first time in space. And I just can't imagine what it'd be like to be taking the psychedelics and be up in space. Probably like this video right here, where it's spinning and spinning. You'd be like, oh my God! But it would be definitely interesting. But I have this other video, and I'll play that one before we go. But I have this other video where it talks about, I've talked about the Seattle police officers that were at the January 6th protest in Capitol Hill, right? And I've talked about how there was at least 6 of them that we know for sure from the Seattle Police Department. So not from the Olympia Police Department and the Everett Police Department and the whole Washington State Police Department. From the Seattle Police Department, there was 6 Seattle police officers that attended the protest on January 6th at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Now, that's 6 that we know of. Now, if you multiply this by police departments around the country, again, Seattle being one of the most liberal cities in the world, so what must all the other more conservative cities, police departments feel about going to Washington? Again, so how many police officers were actually in this protest, right? Hundreds of them? Because what it seems like to me, logically, if you add up the numbers and the percentages, there was hundreds of them there. And they encouraged that shit to go down. And you know what's happening now? Is those same police officers are asking judges to hide their identities. Why we don't know their identities already is is not. See, these are people that should be held to a higher standard, right? And in this video, I connected another video to this one about the police officers. I connected a video about this QAnon shaman, right? And that the Justice Department wants to make an example out of him. So, and I did that because of the contrast, right? Here's this guy carrying an American flag, right? And marching through the Capitol without, really causing, after the police stepped out of the way, there was no out of control radicalism that was, causing problems. They were just walking around. They weren't smashing things. They were just walking around. So, they're making an example out of this guy, right? But yet somehow the Justice Department, the justice system in America, these people that should be held to a higher standard, police officers, were involved in this, right? And I don't know why we're not getting numbers from around the country, or do I know why? Police officers were involved with this. They're public servants, okay? We have the right to know what public servants are apparently breaking the law, and find out, look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so they say. Meaning, if you're going to hold these people to this level, this standard of responsibility, then these people need to be held to the same level. And And what they're saying in this video that I have coming up is that not only are they not being held to the same standard, they want to be completely anonymous, which is just a load of shit. What's happening, caller?
Michael, this is Steve McClanahan. What the fuck are you doing?
I don't know.
Obviously, you're just fucking rambling on like fucking. There's not like a huge trial. There's like a couple of huge trials going on. You don't know about this shit?
I don't really care. I don't want to have the discussion about that. I don't want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, that's where you're talking about fucking shrooms and shit right now, like fucking shroomies.
Yeah.
Doing some shrooms right now. We're all doing some shrooms.
Yeah. Right. That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael. You know what? Are you ready to do a competency test?
What?
No. Obviously not. Okay.
Not until I get my shrooms from Jackie Cat.
You're gonna get some shrooms and you can do a fucking competency test. Is that what you want to fucking do?
Yeah, I want to do competency. I want to do competency test while tripping on shrooms. That's what I want to do. That sounds like endless fun, doesn't it?
You really think that you're going to pass the competency test if you're on shrooms?
I don't care. How many times do I have to tell you? I could care less. I don't care who's giving the competency test, whether it's you or the state or the court. I don't give a fuck. It's probably what I'll write in your ABC. I'll probably write "Don't give a fuck."
Yeah, but this is exactly what you're not supposed to do during the competency test, Michael.
Which has it begun? Has it begun already? I didn't know we started.
You know what? I swear to God, if we got you some shrooms, you might actually be able to pass the competency test here.
I don't care. I don't know how many times I have to tell you.
This is very important. This test is very important. I'm just saying this competency test is extremely fucking important, Michael.
No, it's not. Not to me. Not to me, it's not.
Obviously, that's why they create fucking competency tests. You gotta take this shit seriously. You need to fucking take a look at your behavior and fucking keep a positive attitude at the end of the fucking day. Michael! Why can't you? It's just one competency test. You want everybody else to take the fucking competency test.
When did I say that?
You said it a million times!
Yeah, right. I want politicians to take competency tests. Politicians affect all of us, all of our lives. I want them to prove that they're competent to do so.
Exactly. And I want fucking people that call for those people to take competency tests to take a fucking competency test. And I think they should start taking competency tests. How about that?
Why?
Motherfucker?
They don't affect the whole world.
Because
Why does that matter?
Test. Oh my God! Michael, this is Stephen Clinton. I gotta go.
Good. Bye. Moo. Competency. You have to be competency in order to give a competency test. Okay, so we were talking about the protest on January 6th. The Seattle police officers, they want to act like somehow they deserve anonymity to be anonymous, while all these other people are being held to a way higher standard, which is the way that politicians, police officers, people who like to call themselves public servants, right? These people should be held to a higher standard, right? If they're here somehow like entrusted by the public in some way to do the right thing, they should be held to a higher standard, okay? I didn't say, hey, I'm wanting to do this, so vote for me. Give me your faith, and I'll do the right thing by you, and then not do the right thing by you, and not do the right thing by all the people that I'm supposed to be representing. You know, I don't represent anybody but me. So I don't care if I can pass your test or that person's test, or I never really have. I never really have cared about that. I think it was kind of just it was kind of it had something to do with school. Anyways, I'm going to play this video about Seattle police involved in the January 6th protest and how they want to remain anonymous. And again, keep this in mind. There was at least 6 Seattle police officers that the public have been told about that took part in this protest. So that's just the Seattle Police Department, the most liberal city in the world. So think about all these other police departments and all the other police officers that wanted to go there. Not necessarily wanted to go there, but were sent there to be part of it, right? To be a provocateur. Yeah, let's take the Capitol back! Fuck yeah! People's House, motherfuckers! Let's get them! Right? So, I mean, it would only take a few people riling up that crowd like that, right? And if there's 6 from Seattle, you know, then there's got to be a couple hundred there that weren't. It wasn't like, oh, we want to go there. It's like, yeah, this is again why they're going to get and to be able to be anonymous is because they went there on government orders. This is all a plot to shut down more freedom and to look at people with more suspicion and to vilify people as if they're the problem, as if Donald Trump is the problem, because they want to say, oh, the people never would have done this if it wasn't for Donald Trump. But you know what? That's just not true. The people were upset about Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and all these other fucktards who do exactly what I say, they just lie. You know, they're supposed to be representing us, and then they just do evil against us. So it's not a matter of this is all Donald Trump's fault. It's a matter of we have a shit-ass government that the people, everybody who's not getting vaccinated boils down to one fucking thing. I don't trust the government. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike. I hope you're doing well tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah. Can psychedelic drugs help save humanity? Yes. I mean, I think anytime we appreciate the natural world, like psilocybin mushrooms, for example, that it enhances our beauty or appreciation of all nature, you know? So on that score, I think they can help save humanity. Maybe they can help save humanity because they can help people overcome depression and anxiety from living in this crazy industrialized world. On that score, it's kind of like Aldous Huxley's drug Soma. Remember Soma in Brave New World? It was a substance that people took that alleviated their anxiety and just made them feel good, right? It reminds me a lot of Valium, kind of, or like MDMA.
Mm-hmm.
Just a euphoric drug that people would take. Ooh, I feel okay. I can continue to destroy the world in industrial society and feel okay with myself. And there's this other way of looking at these substances is can they maybe help us provide answers? You know, like Paul Stamets talks about like mushrooms like having their own consciousness, kind of like as a different species of life. And maybe this other species, which has been on Earth much longer than human beings.
You're digitizing. You have to.
Yeah. Well, hey, all right, give me a second to move before you hang up. Are you there? Okay. So maybe like the mushroom spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the spirit, the consciousness of the species could communicate with us and give us some kind of solution or insight. I think that's kind of stretching it, Mike. But I definitely think that psychedelic mushrooms can help us with stress and anxiety, and if used properly, can benefit people. And psychedelics in general in the United States, like after World War II, they became popular. This guy, Dr. Wasson, W-A-S-S-O-N, wrote a book like in 1955 about mushrooms in Mexico, and then the beatniks kind of followed it, so it became popular because it was cool, hip, and shit, right? So that's how it was introduced into American culture, as Americans studying Mexicans using these plants in Oaxaca. That's like how mushrooms became part of our consciousness in America and California and stuff. LSD was first used, of course, in Switzerland, Dr. Albert Hofmann, and during, like, right around the Second World War, and it became popularized after World War II because psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, were using the drugs to make breakthrough therapies with people who were having problems using traditional psychiatric medicine. And they would go on an LSD trip with a guided, experienced psychotherapist helping them, and they would overcome a lot of trauma. Right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, the history of these drugs. And then, just like Marxist theory and just like radical ideas, and they threw all the beatniks in jail. At the end of the 1960s, mainstream culture, the squares, they were fucking sick of it. Like, they were like, fuck this. Like, we're not going to tolerate these pot-smoking, acid-tripping hippies that are, who are expressing kind of experimental therapies and psychotherapy and experimental ideas, because they were opposed to the war, and they were raising consciousness about alternative ways of living, like in the late 1960s.
Yeah.
So there was a huge backlash. In 1968, Richard Nixon was elected. In 1970, the Controlled Substances Act was passed. And when it was passed, it basically made all of these drugs, there's a list of 5 schedules, Schedule 1 through 5, and they're listed. And then these drugs are prohibited. And then they associated fines and prison treatments with these drugs. A relatively recent phenomenon, Mike. In our history, it's only 50 years old. Isn't really very new. And, since then, both political parties have used the drug war as a way to try and get voters. Pretty much. Ronald Reagan and his wife were opposed to drugs. They were opposed to the drug war. Bill Clinton, even though he was kind of critical of the drug war, he passed that 1996 crime bill that Joe Biden wrote that put people in jail for using crack instead of cocaine, regular cocaine, disparate sentences for the same drug, basically.
Yeah.
And of course, George Bush wasn't really light on drugs. I mean, he didn't let off the brakes or anything. And Barack Obama, he had every opportunity to just clean the slate and make everything cool. He could have just done, like, his first week of office, said, this Controlled Substances Act is bullshit, and I'm going to deschedule like 15 of these drugs right now, and we're going to find out a way where people can use them with doctors or whatever, so it's all cool. He didn't fucking do that. Donald Trump.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree that Barack Obama could have done that. And the reason Barack Obama could have done it was that when Barack Obama went into office, he went in with, they talk about, politicians going in with a mandate. He went in with a mandate from the entire world. Okay, during his presidential campaign, he traveled around the world. 1 million people showed up to see him in Paris. In Paris, before he was president. Okay, so he had a mandate from the world. He could have came into office and said, I'm fixing this, I'm fixing that, I'm fixing this. Instead, he went, yeah, I'll just do what they tell me.
That's exactly what he did. I'm going to do what Citibank told me.
Yeah.
The people who gave me a memo telling me who my cabinet members were going to be a month before I was elected. I'm going to do what those guys are going to tell me what to do. Because if I listen to those guys from Citibank who appoint my cabinet, well, then I'll probably be worth like $170 million after I leave office. And I'll be able to live on Cape Cod and be this like renowned president intellectual who can be the conscience of America whenever he opens his mouth for $500,000. That's what Barack Obama knew, and he did a good job. He's been a perfect ex-president, right?
Yeah, I don't know about perfect, but he's been an ex-president.
No. So I mean, evolution of mankind. I think I believe that everybody should have the opportunity, at least once in their life, to take whatever LSD or psilocybin mushrooms or a psychoactive plant, so that they understand that their own ego boundaries, there's things beyond their ego. And when you take these psychoactive drugs, you experience something where you recognize that your ego boundaries break down. And when they break down, you can feel an affinity with everything around you, including your neighbors and friends that you're taking the drug with, but also nature.
Yeah.
It breaks down your ego boundaries, and that's really important if you're struggling to try and understand yourself in society, like my role in society. Break all those fucking boundaries down, and then you start from scratch. And that all happens like in 6 hours or 10 hours or something. So that's what it does. Do you want to do that every single day because that would be a cool, fun experience? I don't know. I don't want my ego boundaries broken down every single fucking day. No.
I don't think it can be. I don't think it can be. If you do LSD this one day and then you try to do LSD this next day, you won't get anything. If you do mushrooms this one day and then you try and do mushrooms the next day, you might get a little something, but it's not going to be a whole lot.
It's true. And so it's basically a question of like, once you're an adult, is how I look at it. You're not an adolescent anymore, and you're not just looking for that high. I need that high, that feeling, almost an addictive feeling that adolescents express about the way they kind of fetishize their drugs. But once you're an adult and you're like, I know what this substance does. Like when you're feeling down, like, in the wintertime here in Washington, there's no sun for like 5 months. It's just part of the deal.
That just bugs the shit out of you, doesn't it?
God damn.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I just
It's dark. Okay, for other people who aren't here, it gets dark at 5 o'clock, right? And the sun comes up like at 7:30 or 8 or something. So it's like dark. It's dark. I don't like it. Daylight savings time I don't like either. Anyway, it does get dark, and traditionally the Native American tribes around Puget Sound were very clannish. The potluck is a word that comes from here. They have their own like houses, long houses, and in the long house in the winter when it rained all the time, they would take psychoactive substances, and they would listen. And they would also listen to people tell stories. And they did the same thing in Mexico and all in North America, where the indigenous people, that they had like a traditional ritual. We don't have that. That's one of the things about these drugs I don't like, Mike, is we don't really have a ritual. Our ritual is more like, yeah, man, I'm 16 and it's cool, and my friends and I are gonna go see Black Sabbath, and we're getting in the car.
Well, that's kind of a ritual, dude. I mean, no offense, but that's kind of a ritual. Yeah, okay.
I know, and then you get to the concert, and it's like, hey man, here's your tab, and then you go and you listen to all this loud, distorted music with like 10,000 or 20,000 people, and you're disoriented, and then the disorientation is part of your trip. Well, that isn't really what psychedelic drugs.
But that's not necessarily what your trip has to be. You can go there and be surrounded by 10,000 people and do this connecting to people, like you were saying, like feel like like you have empathy for these people now. You have better understanding. You know what I mean? It's not just a matter of.
I do know what that experience is.
Yeah.
And I don't like it personally. I would prefer to go like I did last summer and take LSD in the mountains in Olympic National Park by myself and not see a human being for like 48 hours. Because the last thing I want to do is deal with a person. But I do remember being like 17 or 18 and going to a summer fest in Milwaukee, and it was this huge summer festival right on Lake Michigan, and there was Chick Corea, and there was really popular jazz playing there like in the late 1980s, lots of people. And I took trips there because it was a festival. It's like, hey man, I'm just gonna have fun and stuff. And it was just like, bam! Within 30 minutes, I was like, sitting on the rocks near the water, staring at the water. And I stayed there for like 4 hours, man.
Whatever
I
works.
really enjoy. Well, it did work.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone is a little bit different when you're talking about like addressing their psychological problems and working through therapy to like make everything work. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's had the same experiences. So that is why I wish there was a ritual or some kind of a process where you could, have a master, so to speak, who's gone on like 30 or 40 trips and can guide you through those experiences and help you get the best out of the experience.
The main thing is you just kind of are there to make sure people don't set themselves on fire and shit like that, because the first time or two it can be really like or if you have really good psychedelics, it can be like you can be kind of like distracted by everything and do silly things that set yourself on fire accidentally.
Get in the car and drive down.
Right.
Yeah, I really want to see that cool park, and it's there. Let's go. Like that. And so, yeah, a little bit of like a guidance is good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, Mike. I think people should use it accordingly. I actually have some psychoactive substances put away, and I'll probably use them in the next month or two. But I'm going to figure out a time where I can take the time and allot the time in the right place. And that's part of what it is planning.
Yeah.
And most people, when they think of recreational drugs, it's just like, hey, pass the nail, where's the bong? It's like right there in front of you, and you just use it. It's like, oh, I did that. Whereas with psychoactive substances, I think you need a little bit more planning.
You kind of want the right setting. You don't want to be around the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was one story that's not related, one quick story, and I don't even have anything to read because my computer is unplugged right now. But the story is that this was in the Wall Street Journal today. Facebook there's a study that came out, and I think it was an internal document that was released maybe with this whistleblower that's been making the rounds with the news and the different committees. And it said that in the year 2018, 40% of the post on Facebook pages was either plagiarized or reposted, like a recirculated content. Right? And the journal or the writer was very concerned about this. And then I read another article because I went, wow, that's kind of wild. Like, that seems kind of normal, though, right?
Yeah.
You got a Facebook page. You saw this article on Como yesterday, or a video on Como, and you post the video on your Facebook page. Hey, man, and you share it with people.
Yeah.
That's like part of the whole fucking idea.
Seems like it,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and then the article said, and Facebook's noticed that the most popular sites use the most regurgitated content. It's like, wow, that was a shock, right? But then it goes on down in the article, I don't have it, but it says, Alphabet, the owner of Google and YouTube, has already taken measures to control this violation of copyright law.
Yeah.
Copyright law. So the reason why people are pissed at Facebook is because they feel that people are violating copyright law. Now, that's really strange because it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like, let's say there's an article posted in an obscure newspaper, like my hometown newspaper, The Olympian, right? If I repost the article on Facebook and somebody on the other side of the world gets the link and reads the link, they, presumably they're going to open the link up, and it means that the newspaper gets one more person reading their content that they have never had before.
Right.
So I don't understand why media outlets would be pissed off about having their content shared, but for some reason, the major media outlets like CNN, New York Times, Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, those people, I don't know about the Post, but you get my point. The big media outlets are the ones that are pissed off about people resharing their content with a different tag, exactly what you do.
Yeah, they don't like it when you point things out or kind of show the the faults in their argument.
And I also found today, as usual, it was hard to find content today. So like the Wall Street Journal has a paywall. The Independent newspaper in England, you did not have a paywall, but they do now.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And there's a few other newspapers that I found recently that there's a paywall. So it's basically just going to cut people out who are in the loop, you know, and you got to pay to be in the loop. It just means that a lot of us are going to be more misinformed. And if they start enforcing these copyright laws, well, I mean, I don't know, they're going to become irrelevant at some point. Because who can afford to pay? You know, say you read like 20 different things or 50 different, you know, places on the internet that you go to for information, and you have to pay a $10 fee for each one of those websites to access information. You know, you're looking at like a $500 fee just to have access to information. You know, I don't know. That seems, it is capitalism. I live in a capitalist economy and everything. If you don't have money, you can't participate. But it seems to be very elitist and kind of counterintuitive as democracy goes.
Well,
because in a democratic society, you have to have an informed population.
Look,
and if the public isn't informed, you're fucked.
It's not what journalism is meant to be. Journalism is meant to be, hey, this is really important and worth your time, and I think you should check it out. That's what it's meant to be. And this happened today, and you might be interested in that, and it looks like tomorrow this might happen. So, you know, that's what journalism should be, as opposed to if you can pay for it, you know, we'll let you know what's going to happen tomorrow, or what's happening today, or what happened yesterday. That's of value to you, which isn't journalism. It's this, you know, it's again, if you have this perspective of we need to get subscribers, right? Then your journalism becomes skewed, because you're trying to appeal to the audience so that more people will subscribe. It's a really fucked up cycle of fucked upness.
I watched a horrifying movie last night, and it had Tom Hanks in it, which is weird. I didn't even think that was possible. But the movie was called The Circle from 2017.
Huh.
And have you seen that movie, Mike?
No. I watch funny stuff mostly, dude. But I hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a dystopian drama, right? Science fiction about a company that's like Facebook that controls all of these social media accounts, and the goal is to complete the circle so that everybody on Earth has an account, and then they try to link voting with the participation of the account. So they want a world where once you have a Facebook account or a Circle account, then you can vote. You know, they said like out of 250 million registered voters in the United States, like 175 million Americans have a Facebook account. And if all of their data was authenticated, like through, you know, digital face scans and such, they could have they could make it as legitimate as sending your ballot in to the King County auditor or something like that, right? Like super legit. And it'd be convenient at the same exact time. So the movie is about the company trying to almost make an agreement with the government so that they can be a provider of like election services for them. But it also talks about all of the other things that the company wants to do, and about the kind of like the culture of the workers in the company, like the people who work there. What are they expected to be like? How are they expected to act? Like, what is the right business culture for Facebook or for Twitter? And it's not very flattering. It's kind of dark.
Sounds like it.
Of course, Tom Hanks plays the...
But it probably should be kind of dark, you know, from what we're seeing today currently. You know, go ahead. Tom Hanks plays...
Tom Hanks plays kind of like Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg. Plays one of those kind of like tech leaders. Another one of the products they have is like a marble. It's like an eyeball that's a marble that has like a 360-degree camera that you can like put on your head, and then they encourage people to have full participation. And full participation is when you turn it on and it's on 24/7.
Yeah.
So that everyone in the world constantly sees what you're doing as a form of encouragement to be part of this And again, that is what Facebook is doing right now with Meta, that just came out a couple of weeks ago, is they want these virtual reality glasses, people to use these virtual reality glasses so that their computer experience becomes a 3D visual experience, which I imagine is going to be highly addictive, Mike.
I never seen this 3D shit work, man. You know, it's like, you remember, see, the problem with the glasses, the problem with the goggles is that people aren't meant to view things that close to their eyes. So their eyes become kind of a little bit crossed, and then you can only wear this thing for so long because your eyes, the muscles around your eyes are doing things that they're not used to, and it gives you a headache or whatever. Now, have you ever seen the movie The Jerk? Steve Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah. He invents this thing, this handle for glasses, and it winds up making everybody cross-eyed, right? Same thing, dude. So
there's physical limitations.
Yeah, it's this thing that's just not going to work. Plus, everything I've ever seen that was 3D just looked retarded. I got two Tom Hanks movies that I really like. Have you seen The Burbs?
No, B-E-R-G-S. Like
no, it's a B-U-R-B-S. Burbs.
Okay. No.
And the man with one red shoe. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that.
Oh, I love both those movies.
I'll put them on my list.
I've seen The Man with One Red Shoe at least 20 times.
Yeah, I just read an article about
oh no, go ahead. You just read it.
America being him being America's Jimmy Stewart, basically. You know, for like a 10 or 15 year period of time, he was kind of like the everyday man that Americans could relate to in all of these different settings and stories.
Yeah.
And the article is talking about in the last 4, 5, 6 films, he's kind of has a darker edge to him right now, because you can't be like that amicable Jimmy Stewart character, amiable Jimmy Stewart character forever. Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So he's on the back side of it now. And they said that Jimmy Stewart, you know, also kind of like didn't make very many films after he was 60 years old. That like some of these like lead alpha male actors, like once they reach that point, it's almost better to just kind of like fade into the background instead of to try and just keep pushing it further and further and further.
I know. I like Henry Fonda, man. I really, he made a lot of movies, and he was very good right up to the end, I think.
He did. Jason Robards is another actor who was a good actor when he was older. I mean, there's some good. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but
yeah,
it's not always. It doesn't happen that way always.
Well, yeah, no.
Look at those
Harrison Ford's looking kind of rough these days.
Yeah, they look kind of like a little rough around the edges, especially like, I mean, he's a little rough all around. I mean, he's crashed his airplane a couple of times, I think, you know. I think he might be experiencing a little Alzheimer's. Who knows? I feel sorry for the guy. But I'm gonna let you go. I will check out those films, the Man with the Red Shoe. Is that what you said?
The Man with One Red Shoe. It has Carrie Fisher in it.
Red Shoe and the Birds.
Yeah, it has Carrie Fisher in it. And The Burbs is freaking great, dude. It's like the second movie I ever bought was The Burbs. I didn't buy it for me, but
it's like satirizing the living in the suburbs.
It's kind of like how paranoia can like grow. You know, it's really hilarious, dude. It's just, it has Bruce Dern in it. I love Bruce Dern, and a couple other people that you'll probably recognize, like Corey Haim.
All right.
Yeah.
I will. Well, I'm going to go back inside where the reception is bad because it is starting to rain.
Yay! It's going to rain like a motherfucker the next 2 days, dude.
No, it's fucking raining, Mike. All right, I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks for calling. It's good to hear from you. All right, so now where were we? I was talking about the January 6th protest. And the Seattle police officers, 6 Seattle police officers that we know of, took part in the January 6th protest. They're asking to keep their identities anonymous, unlike this shaman guy. But the point being that there was 6 just from Seattle Police Department. There must have been hundreds of cops there. And whenever we see cops in plain clothes in a protest, it's pretty much always they're there being provocateurs, meaning they throw the first rock, they throw the first bottle. Yeah, you know, they chant, "Let's take back the Capitol for the president!" Woo! You know, I mean, this is their job when they're in plain clothes in a protest. It's really, really hard for me to imagine police officers taking part in a protest, especially something, you know, that has to do with the government, right? It's really hard to imagine, you know, police officers taking part in a protest, because I've watched them when I was in protest, and they look at the people in protest as if they despise them, as if, you know, these people are scum, right? So it's really difficult for me to imagine police officers taking part in a protest, unless, of course, they were directed to go there as agent provocateurs, which is the way that I see it and the way that I've explained it again and again. I'm going to play that video for you now before someone calls.
The Justice Department is seeking to make an example of the so-called QAnon shaman. Prosecutors are now asking for a prison sentence for more than 4 years. Jacob Chansley quickly becoming the face of the January 6th riot at the Capitol after pictures of him inside the building emerged. He was one of the first rioters to make it inside the building and then carried an American flag on a speared pole, which prosecutors have called a weapon. Chansley's lawyer says that his client has mental health issues and believed he was entering the Capitol on then President Donald Trump's invitation. The Washington State Supreme Court will decide if the identities of Seattle police officers who attended the January 6th protest will be made public. The justices heard oral arguments from both sides yesterday. 6 Seattle officers were in Washington, D.C. to attend then-President Trump's Stop the Steal rally. Their attorneys argued their names are protected under the state's public records law. The justices must also decide whether those officers can continue their court filings anonymously. The High Court took the case under advisement and said it will make a ruling at a later date. Meanwhile, a federal judge says investigators can have access to White House documents that could shed light on the January 6th Capitol attack. Coming up in this newscast, we'll dig into former President Trump's efforts to appeal that decision.
Okay, now, so when they talk about the protesters, they're rioters, they're insurrectionists, they're domestic terrorists, terrorist light. But when they talk about the cops who were at the protest, they attended. They weren't insurrectionists or terrorist light or rioters. They simply attended the protest, right? Again, this is beyond the pale. It's unacceptable in any reasonable person's mind. You know, either they're the same as these other people, insurrectionists, terrorist light, you know, rioters, or they're what? They're attendees. They attended the protest. I call them all protesters. That's the way I see it, except for cops. Again, it's so hard for me to imagine cops participating in a protest after what I have seen being in protest many times, and then also documenting protests for years and years and years. I mean, I'm telling you, during Occupy, I watched the cops walk around. I have video of one of them walking around, right, with his hand, right? He's got his gun and he's walking around and his hand's going like this. Like right by his fucking gun. His gun's right here, his hand's going like this. The whole time he's walking around the crowd. That is exactly how police officers view protesters. Okay? So, and the Occupy protesters were as peaceful as it gets. It just doesn't get any more peaceful than the Occupy protesters. So that's how they perceive them. How could they participate knowing that that's how they perceive, right? So I'm pretty sure And again, every time in the past we have seen police officers in plain clothes, you know, apparently participating in a protest. It almost always turns out that they are agent provocateurs. So, you know, put one and one together. You know what I mean? It's pretty basic logic, but that's the only kind I really use. Now, that being said, I have one more video for you. It's about an astronaut that's going up to the space station for her first time in space. And she looks very excited, and I thought it was a pretty good clip, so I figured I would share it with you. I'm gonna play that video now, and we'll see if anybody else wants to call before we go. Okay? Thanks so much for tuning in. First trip into space, doesn't that sound like fun? Imagine doing it on mushrooms, Jackie Cat.
Well, 4 astronauts are safely back on planet Earth tonight after more than 200 days on board the International Space Station. They spent 8 hours soaring back into Earth's atmosphere, landing safely in the Gulf of Mexico. And one of 2 NASA astronauts on that flight was Kayla Barron. Barron's career has brought her from the depths of the ocean into outer space. Reporter Steve Bender has her story.
For Kayla Barron, the dream of becoming an astronaut came only a few years ago.
For me, that realization came pretty late in life compared to some of my colleagues here in the astronaut office. I grew up knowing that I wanted to serve, knowing that I wanted to join the military from a pretty young age. About the age of 12 was when I first started being interested.
So after high school, Kayla went to the Naval Academy, and there she realized not that she wanted to reach new heights, but rather reach new depths as a submarine warfare officer.
So when I graduated, that's what I did. I went and served aboard a submarine, the USS Maine, and did 3 deployments in the Pacific. And that was the most developmental and fulfilling period of my life.
Kayla was a member of the first class of women commissioned into the submarine community. And at the age of 25, she was in charge, a major responsibility that led her to become an astronaut.
So it wasn't until I had that experience and left the submarine and made the connection for the first time how similar submarine is to operating in space station. And so for me, it was that connection that gave me the confidence to even imagine myself applying, even imagine putting myself out there to take that step and say, like, take me if you're interested. I really would love to serve in this context as well.
And so at the age of 27, Kayla realized that's when she wanted to be an astronaut. And a few years later, she's now ready for her first mission.
I think I'm looking forward to looking out the window back on the Earth and just having that experience of that really unique perspective. I've heard from astronauts who've flown before that it really changes the way you see the Earth and the role of human beings in understanding and protecting our beautiful planet.
And for all of those watching on launch day, Kayla says to dream big.
It's really important to have big goals and big dreams and not be afraid of pursuing them. I think it's really easy, especially when you're from an underrepresented group, to talk yourself out of those challenges of putting yourself out there, having that feeling of imposter syndrome, like, do I really belong here? Can I really do this thing? Are people going to believe in me? But for me, kind of being willing to take that risk, feel that vulnerability of putting myself out there is what has allowed me to have these opportunities, and being brave enough to share those dreams with the people around me, with mentors who have been able to develop and support me along the way, is how I got to where I am today.
And she is such an inspiration for curious minds and future female astronauts everywhere.
I gotta post that video clip separately. I think that's a pretty good clip, and I do think that she's an inspiration. Imagine going through, what'd she say, 7 tours and a fucking submarine. Imagine being in a fucking submarine filled with farts for fucking how many fucking, oh my god. She's a better man than I am, that's for sure. So let me think where we were. I am going to go get some food. That sounds really good. I think I'm going to get some crispy honey chicken. Oh my God. If you have a Winco in your neighborhood, the crispy honey chicken is out of this world. It's in the freezer where all the frozen chicken is, or the Chinese stuff, whatever, something like that. And oh my God. Now, they have sweet and sour chicken, which I haven't tried yet. Doesn't look like it. I might have tried it. They have the General Tso's chicken, which looks good, but you know, they have an orange chicken, which looks good. But I'm telling you, the crispy honey chicken, oh, that is the stuff right there. Can't go wrong. And the movie recommendations for this evening, once again, are Tom Hanks' The Burbs. If you haven't seen it, great movie. And Tom Hanks, The Man with One Red Shoe. The Man with One Red Shoe, Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, Jim Belushi, Laurie Singer. I love that movie. I've watched that movie like 20 times. I just love that movie. I don't know why I love it so much, but there's something about it that really works for me. Maybe it's Carrie Fisher being a monkey girl. Let's play Tarzan. That's my kind of girl. Carrie Fisher playing monkey girl. You know you want to see it. All right. It's so nice of you to tune in. In case you don't know, we do this every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which means we'll be back tomorrow. Same Mox time, same Mox channel. And until then, stay cool, because one of these days, this war is gonna end. Stay cool till then.
Sometimes life can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes the weight of the world can be too much to bear. Sometimes you need to stop worrying and take a deep breath. Sometimes you need cannabis. Introducing Brightside, high-quality cannabis delivered right to your door. Brightside offers an extensive menu of strains and products to meet your needs. Choose the experience you want, and we'll send you the dankest herb, the real sticky icky, some top-shelf marijuana. If you like what we send you, keep the whole jar. We'll even include some nugs for you to blaze. As part of Discovery, you'll get to try new strains and products. Side effects may include euphoria, increased appetite, uncontrollable giggles, elevated sensitivity to musical dopeness, and reduced anxiety. Tetrahydrocannabinol may also induce feelings of existential well-being and relentless optimism. With a Brightside subscription, you can get it once a month, once a week, or whenever you want, all at a price you'll like. And yes, this is a real company.
Do you know who I am? You're the wizard.
Ask your doctor if cannabis is right for you. It probably is. Keep it Brightside.
I mean, this coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. I wish the coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories 100% commercial-free and subscription-free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level. From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. moxnews.com.